This week's movie wrap-up is sponsored by franchises. That's right, because for the most part of this week, I've just been watching movies from franchises. So, without further ado, let's take a look at this week's episode of the movie wrap-up. You're watching Steve's movie wrap-up, episode 24, on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. The first movie we'll be reviewing in this episode is Small Soldiers. So the first movie I watched this week was Small Soldiers. Gave it a 3.5-star rating over on Letterboxd. I've decided to go back and start my week this week by doing some rewatches of films that I have watched in the past and that I wanted to revisit because it's been a while since I last did that, and I started the week off by watching Small Soldiers. Now, I absolutely love this movie so much. It's about this young lad who ends up getting these toys, one of whom is a sensible toy, but the rest are rather bad. They have these chips inside of them, and they begin to form a war and turn against humans. You know what? Thinking back to the plot of this slightly reminds me of Gremlins, one of my all-time favourite films, by the way, because in Gremlins you've got the sensible Mogwai, and then of course its offspring are the bad ones, as they are the Gremlins. This kind of feels like that, except these are toys with technology inside of them and aren't the offspring of a sensible toy, I guess, but you get the gist of it though. This one for me is such a classic film that I do always enjoy going back and watching from time to time. Although I remember when I first watched the opening sequence as a young child, seeing the robotic face of the toy as a child used to creep me out for some reason, but I do feel like this movie still holds out well though. I didn't know this until recently, and don't even ask me why, because even I don't know, but one of the main toy soldiers, who's the leader of the bad guys in this, is voiced by Tommy Lee Jones. A young-looking Kirsten Dunst also stars in this movie, the days before she starred in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. You know, the Spider-Man that was acted by Tobey Maguire. All in all, this one is a great watch for all the family if you're looking for a movie to watch. Johnny English. Johnny English I gave 3.5 stars over on Letterboxd. One of my favourite movies growing up as a child, and I revisited this one again. Well, not just this one, but the entire franchise, and I believe that there is a fourth movie in the works, which, from what rumours I have seen, will begin filming in the next couple of months, and hopefully should set a 2025 or a 2026 release date. But Johnny English is such a classic movie that I always love revisiting. It's got some great comedy in there, especially for all the family to enjoy, and I also love the fact that it doesn't really take itself too seriously. I guess you could say that growing up, for me, this was my James Bond. Not that I'm a huge James Bond fan by any means, but you can also say that this is a spoof or parody of that, of James Bond as well. Rowan Atkinson is great in the role of Johnny English, and I will say that at times, and even to this day, at times, watching this movie back now, he does somewhat remind me a little of Mr. Bean with his bumbling ways, but I guess like many, when people see Rowan Atkinson, they instantly think of Mr. Bean. Johnny English Reborn. Going from Johnny English straight to Johnny English Reborn, I gave that 2.5 stars over on Letterboxd. Now, I'll be honest, with Johnny English Reborn, I haven't seen this one as much as I have seen the original Johnny English movie. I've seen the original Johnny English movie as many times as I have toes and fingers, but with the sequel though, I haven't seen it as much. I know that back when this movie came out, I didn't really go to the cinema as often, but even when this film did come out in cinemas and I saw marketing for it on buses and stuff, I don't think I had much of a desire to see this in cinemas. That being said though, do I still enjoy the sequel to Johnny English? Yeah, I do. I mean, it's still a great watch and a movie that's made for all the family to enjoy, and the comedy is still there, despite the fact that not all the characters from the original are here, but nevertheless, though, Rowan Atkinson reprises his role as Johnny English in this movie, and again, like the original, he's great at what he does and does make the 90-minute running time fun to watch on screen. I don't know how I would have felt watching this movie on the big screen, whether this movie would have sold it to me as a film I can watch on constant repeat, but still though, now that I have watched it watched it a few times, probably about 5 or 6 times since its release, I can probably say that I do still enjoy revisiting this one from time to time. Johnny English Strikes Again. And then from Johnny English Reborn to Johnny English Strikes Again, which I gave 3 stars over on Letterboxd. So Johnny English Strikes Again is back on form with its witty and funny script, and there is a couple of characters in this one that have made a reappearance based from the original, something that the sequel didn't do, unfortunately. But I really enjoyed this one a lot, and safe to say that despite not seeing the original in cinemas, so I believe, and not seeing the sequel in cinemas neither, I do remember seeing this one in cinemas. I think from what I recall, I saw Johnny English Strikes Again twice in cinemas, and then I remember rewatching it again when it came out on digital, and I brought the movie to buy and keep because there's a few scenes in this which I always do laugh at every time I see this movie, and I always am happy to go back and revisit this movie as well. Again, another movie that I would recommend for those family-friendly movies which all the family, no matter the age, can enjoy. Once again, Rowan Atkinson proves that Johnny English is one of those iconic characters within the British culture that no matter the situation, he's a man on the mission, even if there's a few cock-ups along the way. Ted. So we go from one franchise and we go on to another franchise, and I'm talking about Ted now, which I gave 3 stars over on Letterboxd. After watching the TV series and finishing the TV series this week, which is a prequel based on the movie Ted, I decided to give Ted a rewatch. I purchased this film to buy and keep on Amazon Prime a couple of years ago now, and I always enjoy going back and rewatching this one. It kind of makes me laugh when watching this one at the beginning, because you go into this thinking this must be a family-friendly movie, but then they start swearing or then start coming out with some humour that some people out there may find offensive, and then you realise, oh yeah, this isn't a family-friendly movie at all. This film is designed for adults. Ted is a foul-mouthed teddy bear and is voiced by Seth MacFarlane, the guy who created American Dad and Family Guy, and weirdly in this movie he does sound like one of the main characters from Family Guy called Peter Griffin. You do have another Family Guy voice actress in this who is Mila Kunis. She plays Mark Wahlberg's character John, John's girlfriend. I do enjoy the comedy elements in this, and safe to say that this is one of my favourite comedy franchises that I love to go back and rewatch from time to time. Ted 2. And then we go from Ted to Ted 2, which I gave 3.5 stars over on Letterboxd. Ted 2 was released a few years after the first Ted movie, and I must admit that I do enjoy this one a little bit more than the first movie. I love the plot, the fact that there's this debate as to whether Ted is a person or a property. I love that we see the return of the villain from the first movie, Donnie, who is after Ted, after he wants his own talking teddy bear, something he's always been jealous of John for. And then you have got these really awesome Comic-Con scenes as well, and seeing things like Daleks from Doctor Who and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well. And of course you have got the Hasbro references such as My Little Pony that's thrown in there as well. it is safe to say that I enjoyed this one a lot. And while I'm on the subject of reviewing this movie, there's one particular scene which I feel as though is one of my best scenes in a comedy movie I have watched of all time, which is where Ted goes into hiding from Donnie as he's chasing him down through the Comic-Con convention, and Ted ends up hiding with all these other Ted toys. So Donnie seeks him out by singing Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline, and when Ted does the da 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 at the end is comedy gold, and I always laugh at that bit every time I revisit this movie without fail. Mark Wahlberg is back in the sequel to Ted as Ted's best friend John. Mila Kunis doesn't star in this movie, however, but we do have Amanda Seyfried in this movie, and Seth MacFarlane is also back as the voice of Ted as well. Now, while I'm talking about Ted as a franchise, I would be happy if we see a season 2 of the recently released prequel show, and failing that, then I would be happy for them to do a third movie in the franchise if that's possible. But I do know for sure that Seth MacFarlane is a really busy man with all the other successful shows he's done in the past, and I'm talking Family Guy, American Dad, even The Orville as well. The Orville is another another show which seems to be very successful amongst viewers. Abigail. And I've been to the cinema once this week, and the only film that I did get to see, as the poster proves at the side of the screen now, is the movie Abigail. Now, this movie, by the way, I have given 4 stars over on Letterboxd. Abigail was such a fun time, probably the best horror movie I have seen so far, or at least in my top 3 of horror movies I've watched in 2024, the other 2 being The First Omen and Immaculate. Now, before you're wondering what order I'd put them in, well, that's tricky and something I'm not going to dive into in this review because we are here to talk about the film. Now, while Abigail plays it safe with a plot that's rather thin pretty much, but I think the entertaining factor makes up for that. I had a really good time with this, and I know this was going to be one of those types of movies which doesn't take itself too seriously, and trust me, this film doesn't really take itself too seriously at all. I think the acting performances in this were great. You have Alicia Weir, star of Matilda the Musical, play this 12-year-old girl who loves ballet, but she isn't a typical 12-year-old girl who loves ballet, though. She's a 12-year-old girl who loves ballet and is also a vampire at the same time. Now, before you say, why did you spoil that part for me? Well, I didn't, quite frankly, because if you watch the trailer for the movie, then the reveal is in the trailer itself, which is a bummer, because if they had kept this movie under wraps until its release in cinema, it would have intrigued me a little bit more as to who is this Abigail girl and why is this movie titled after her. But they revealed that she's a vampire in the trailer, which I guess was a way to pull in the audience to watch this movie. Now, while that reveal was in the trailer itself, the movie does have some surprises in store, which it manages to keep up its sleeve. I'm going to say that this horror movie is also rather bonkers, especially by the time you get to the end. The final act of the movie is just rather bonkers, and again, doesn't really take itself too seriously. It's safe to say that I had a really fun time with this movie, and if they did a sequel for this movie, then I would happily watch it. I would happily be seated for it, although they would probably need a new set of cast members to do a sequel with, though, and it depends whether a sequel would work or not, and if there's a story there or not. I really hope I haven't spoiled anything about the ending by hoping there's a potential sequel. Maybe not. Now, the cast members were great, by the way. You have Melissa Barrera from Scream 5 and Scream 6. Angus Cloud, who I believe was in the TV series Euphoria and was in a movie that I reviewed for Letterboxd last year, but I can't from the top of my head remember what it was called. But he was great in the movie that I did review. I do remember that. And what's lovely about the movie is at the end, they do dedicate the film to Angus Cloud, who sadly passed away not long after the movie had gone into production, which was a nice touch. You also had Catherine Newton, star of Freaky 2020, Lisa Frankenstein, and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and you also had Dan Stevens, who I believe was in Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire movie. Well, he also starred in the British drama series Downton Abbey as well. I was, by the way, today years old when I learned about that, by the way. I will say that all the actors in this are absolutely great in the movie with the roles that they are given. The gore was amazing in this, like really top-notch gore. I'm going to say this gore was on the same lines as the gore you would find in a film like Evil Dead Rise that came out last year, or even going back to the 2013 Evil Dead movie. Both of them were gory as well. So I would say that this definitely was in that category as a gory movie. I will say though that I think somewhere in here there is a hidden Easter egg. If you've seen Ready or Not and seen what happens at the end of that movie, then you'll get the reference when you see it in the movie, which I won't say because of spoilers. And I am pretty sure that Radio Silence recently said in an interview that the movie is set in the same universe as Ready or Not. But Radio Silence, the production company behind the movie, did an absolutely great job at creating this masterpiece of a horror movie, because I really enjoyed it. I think it's safe to say that this film could easily become one of my comfort horror movies that I go back and watch every now and then. This is probably a film I would happily go back and see at the cinema again, and this is definitely a movie that I would buy and keep on digital when it becomes available. In a way, I know we had a slow start for movies in 2024, but I think it's safe to say that hopefully now, touch wood, that movies are going to start getting better going forward, and there's going to be more movies that will make me want to go to the cinema to go and watch them rather than wait to stream them at home when they get released on digital. Now, it's funny that I do mention Abigail very quickly as well, because not only is this the last movie that I have watched this week, but by the time this movie wrap-up episode does come out, I am planning to go and see it again with my gorgeous girlfriend Grace. So I am planning to go. I am doing a rewatch of it. So wait until my weekly vlog does come out tomorrow, which will be Monday the 29th of April 2024, 6 PM UK time. I will get her thoughts on the movie Abigail as well, so that will definitely be worth a watch then. So that is my thoughts, everyone, on the movie Abigail. And that is pretty much it for this week's episode of the movie wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section down below. As always, question is, what movies have you guys been watching and enjoying this week, or hating this week even? Let me know in the comment section down below, whether it's old, new, in the cinema, or on streaming. Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, if you like what you see, then feel free to hit that subscribe button to become a Steve-O if you are new around here, okay? So like I've said, my next YouTube video will be out on Monday the 29th of April 2024 at a slightly later time of 6 PM UK time, as that's going to be my weekly vlog. But sadly, I am away by the time this video goes out, hence why the vlog will be out at a slightly later time. But until then though, it's goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys again in my next YouTube video.